King Khufu, he is the second king of this dynasty and the builder of the Great Pyramid, which, along with the other pyramids in the Giza area, is considered one of the 7 wonders of the world. Before we discuss Khufu's reign and his successors, we will briefly talk about the pyramids in general, so that every visitor to the pyramid area can learn something about them. The first to erect a pyramid of the kings of Egypt was the pharaoh Djoser. He is known as the pyramid. After that, Snefru, Hermen stayed in Dahshur and Midim areas, as we have mentioned, but Khufu has left these sides and has chosen for himself the Giza plateau on which to erect his pyramid. Huge, and perhaps the secret of it was that this plateau was close to my sun-cult place. As well as because it is spacious and high to make his pyramid supervise everything around, is added to. The stones of this plateau are suitable for cutting building stones for their hardness and durability, so it was. It is easy for him to cut stones from them to erect his huge pyramid with them. Comparing the stones of these quarries with the stones of the pyramids, it was found that they are one type, and thus demolished. The ancient theory, namely the theory of Herodotus, that the stones of the pyramids were brought to him from the quarries of the eastern side of the Nile, Torah quarries, the same mistake that occurred in fact, the stones with which the pyramids were clad were the ones that it was brought from the quarries of Torah, and the stones of this area were also used to make statues and to make the imaginary doors on which the hieroglyphic texts were written, so as to fill them. It is clear from this that the subject of the construction of the pyramids was not one of the works in which great hardships were being done that we used to read in old books. The modern, and the quarries from which the stones of the pyramids were cut are clearly visible next to both. The 4 pyramids he won't want to see now that the sand and dust that covered them have been removed from them. Thousands of years ago, the construction of the pyramids was also facilitated by how the ancient Egyptians lifted stones. Until very recently, the world believed that the Egyptians were building the chutes just to drag. The stones were used in the construction of the pyramid, but recent discoveries have shown that the Egyptians had. In this era, they reached the use of the PKR to lift stones, and it was found in the excavations of the university. One of them was found next to the second pyramid, and the other was found in one of the houses of the cities of the pyramids, part of which was recently revealed east of the 4th pyramid, and from each. It becomes clear to the reader that our Egyptian ancestors had reached a great extent in the art of construction and the use of the forces of nature, and before we describe the Great Pyramid we should mention a general word about the pyramid, its accessories and the purpose of its construction. Archaeologists differed in the adaptation of the shape of the pyramid to the ancient Egyptians and the origin of its construction, and in reality, the shapes of the pyramids differ in their appearance and structure very often. For example, we find the pyramid. The amphitheater in Saqqara has a square terrace at its base, on top of which several terraces gradually get smaller, and there are. Another pyramid has a square base and on top of it several square terraces smaller than the first, but without a top. And there is the 4th pyramid, and it differs from all the pyramids. Its square base holds a sarcophagus on top of it. The best complete pyramid construction is the pyramids of Giza. The hierarchical structure is followed by several complementary accessories and accessories, without which it is not considered a pyramid in the true sense. First, the pyramid on the seaward side sometimes has 2 doors, one at the bottom and the second above it. Each of them is brought to the burial chamber, and it is certain that there was in front of the door a small niche for worship. Second, on the eastern side of the pyramid was a huge temple called the funerary temple, and the temple was connected to another temple called the Valley Temple by a road built with huge stones. And in the center of it along a narrow, roofed passage was erected. The local width is sometimes about meters. It was used for the passage of priests who were performing religious ceremonies for the king from the temple. Or vice versa, this road that used to connect the 2 temples. Very long, and it reached a length of about meters for the second pyramid. It was impossible to penetrate. This road offered to carve in the middle of an underground tunnel, to facilitate those who want to cross the road casually. The funerary temple, which is located adjacent to the walls of the eastern side of the pyramid, was. He swears by my oath, one section is considered a temple for the sea face, another for the tribal face, and on one side. The temple of the tribal face the king used to dig for himself 2 boats in which to conduct his daily tourism such as the sun. The pharaoh considered himself after his death as the sun, he is born in the morning and swims in. The horizon is spent all day in a special ship, and then transferred at sunset to another ship in which to perform. At night, then he returns to the world again and so on, and it was not supposed that the ship of the night did not. You see, the Egyptians hid it from view by making a roof for it, and the length of a ship. The length of the day ship is about meters and the length of the night ship is about meters, and it was found on the seaward side. From the sea face temple are 2 boats similar to the tribal face boats but smaller in size. In the alignment of the pyramid from the east, a huge ship was also carved for the pilgrimage to the Godmother. The length of this vessel was adjacent to the eastern side of the second pyramid. About meters. Third, one of the requirements of the pyramid was also to erect a huge wall around it so as not to approach it. Ben according to the ability of the pharaoh. One of the grays of the priests, and this wall was built with stone or with Ben for priests and servants who. Fourth, a city was built near each pyramid by they performed duty towards the deceased king, and these cities were later found in the eastern part of the pyramids, revealing a large part of them, although most of them are still buried under the sand, and perhaps reveal to us a new page in the Egyptian civilization of that era. The mysterious. Despite the beautiful statues and luxurious utensils found in the temples of the valley and the funerals of the second and third pyramids, a large part of them has been placed, as the rebels have been destroyed after. The 6th family is most of the remnants of the 4th family. And we found next to the second pyramid the remains of more than a statue other than what the 2 hopes transferred to Munich and Hildesheim from the remains of these statues. Despite all the recent revelations about the pyramids of Giza, our information is still incomplete about. Until one of the pyramids from all sides is fully revealed scientifically, we will remain in the dark. The pyramids will keep a mysterious secret. 1 to 2, the Great Pyramid. The Great Pyramid built by the king, Khufu, is the largest of the pyramids located in Egypt, and its cover, constructed of cut white limestone, has been removed from the length of its base is about meters, and its current height is about meters. Its volume is about 2.5 million cubic meters. The number of its stones is that is, the weight of the pyramid is about 21 tons. 2. About, and the weight of each. And if we know that the age of the reign of Khufu did not exceed 20 years, 6 million tons. We are perplexed in front of this huge effort that erected this huge building in those years. A few. This is on the old claim that stones were brought for its construction from the quarries of Tura, but if we know that the stones used to build the pyramid were cut from quarries adjacent to it, and that the ball was used to lift these stones, it was easy for us to understand the great effort that he made. Fear, especially if we know that an unforgivable number of Egyptians have been working on its construction for a long time. The duration of the flood of each year, due to their immortality from the work of agriculture in the flood period, and still. The dwellings they inhabited are seen carved in the great rock located before the pyramid. The biggest, and undoubtedly the secret to getting this great job done quickly is due to the organization of work. And manage it by technical methods. Although the Great Pyramid is the most impressive thing in Egypt, it has not been revealed from all sides. His funerary temple and the valley temple are still buried underground, and apparently the road. The connection between the 2 temples was apparent during the reign of Herodotus, and he said about him that he was impressed by the pyramid itself, and now excavations are being carried out on the eastern side of this pyramid in the funerary temple. It stopped suddenly, and an image of King Khufu was found inscribed on one of the stones of the temple, as well as some inscriptions and photographs were found that clearly indicate the significance. The funerary temple of King Khufu. Inscriptions were found on it, thereby demolishing the theory that the temple of the Great Pyramid was not. It has inscriptions on it, and in fact the drawing of Cheops found here is the first known image of him in history, and the last one found two ships of the sun, one of which is about meters long. And another ship is reached by a staircase and is about meters long. Aerial view of the pyramids of Giza showing the Great Pyramid and its smaller pyramids on the side. Eastern. Khufu erected this pyramid to be his eternal shelter, but he did not stay there long, he found. If everything is complete, the burial chamber must. His coffin is kept in an empty burial chamber. During the revolution that took place after the decline of the reign of the kings of the Sixth Dynasty, we were stormed as. We find traces of vandalism carried out in the period built by the late 6th Dynasty and 11th Dynasty. A phenomenon in this region, as we will talk about later. And some may even imagine that the construction of the Great Pyramid occupied Khufu from the rest of the works of his king. But the reality is that we find traces of him remaining in the cities of his kingdom, such as Kafit, Dendera, and Tel Basta. And besides her, Khufu left his name engraved in the copper and frieze mines of the Sinai Peninsula. The inscriptions that have survived in this area tell us that he kindled the fire of war against the holy Semites. The traveler in these areas, who is known as Mentio, no doubt he was doing to protect the campaigns he was sending to these parties to obtain minerals and stones, and he was sometimes forced to trace these thieves to great distances north, even if he had the opportunity to mix with the northern and eastern cities, although he is not. We have conclusive evidence from that ancient era that there are real relations between Egypt. In Babylon, it is certain that the Egyptians knew something about Babylonian civilization, in addition to. Because there were trade relations from time to time in that era, some tribes built. They inhabited the desert near the edge of the Nile Valley and some of them, and it was the establishment of this relationship. Especially from the south, because the Nile was facilitating this trade, and the Nubians. They refrained from raids on the borders of the pharaoh, and then accepted to be under his authority. It is obvious that after the death of Khufu, disputes arose over the king, as we find in the lists of kings that. It has come to us that the king who succeeded Khufu is a Dafare, but some scholars deny this. He continued to rule for 8 years, but what is surprising about him is that he did not establish his pyramid in an area. He chose to build his pyramid, which has now been demolished and there is no remains of it. Giza, but Abu Ra'ash took a place. However, it is obvious that the reason for these disputes is due to the polygamy of Khufu, and each king married several women, had many fortunes, and at this time it was a marriage. Brother from sister is a common thing in the royal family, however, it was not the accession of a woman to the throne of the king. The few examples we have so far are limited to Kentkaz in the early family. Fifth, the last, Neferu's sepulchre of the 12th dynasty, and the Hatshepsut of the dynasty. 18, and yet the king was proving his right to the king when his wife or mother of royal blood, and heredity was not the only way to take over the king, there were factors. Others are due to the personality and morality of the individual, or to the intrigues of the palace harem. Therefore, the inheritance of the king was sometimes open to younger members of the royal family, and even to. It appears that the accession of a member of the non-royal family to the throne of the king was considered the beginning of a new family, and this new founder was working to stabilize his property by marrying one of relatives of the king, that is, of true royal blood, and the tradition or the law that followed required. The right to the property must be according to the following system. The heir to the throne should be the son of a king born from the marriage of a king with his sister, both of whom are of blood. The exclusive property. The heir must be the son of a king born from the marriage of a king who is not of pure royal blood with a daughter. A king of pure royal blood. The heir to the throne should be a strong man who married the daughter of a king of pure royal blood. From the above, it is clear that the accession to the throne in Egypt was not an easy matter, especially if we learn that Khufu married several women, and that the competitions counted him among the children. His multiple wives are on the throne of the king, and apparently, paying Ra was not his right to the king. As strong as his brother, Kab, he believes that Dafra was the son of a queen of Lubia origin and not from. He married his sister, Hatep-Haris II, the daughter of Queen Hatep-Haris I. She is known as a blonde, and therefore we find that the features of Pushare differ from the features of the kings of this family, and apparently the original branch of his family was in apparent hostility to him, if not in quarrels against his ascendancy to the throne. As a mullah who died and was succeeded by his brother, Khafur, the family did not keep silent about it. Defra, as his son, Bakara, fought against Khafur for years to no avail.